Tonight, you live in a world where everything you touch relies on an invisible global web. 3,000 years ago, ancient humans built a web just like it. It connected grand kingdoms across thousands of miles of open sea. Then, within a single generation, it all completely vanished. In the year 1127 BC, the civilized world did not just decline. It blinked out of existence. Imagine walking through a bustling city with massive stone towers, paved streets, and crowded markets. Everyone is literate. Merchants are trading precious metals across thousands of miles. Ships are arriving daily from distant empires. Suddenly, the ships stop coming. The markets go silent. The palaces burn to ash. Within 50 years, no one remembers how to read or write. This actually happened. For centuries, the Late Bronze Age was the pinnacle of human achievement. The Eastern Mediterranean was dominated by massive, highly organized superpowers. In Egypt, Ramesses III ruled a vast empire of monumental stone temples. In Greece, the Mycenaeans built heavily fortified mountain citadels. In modern-day Turkey, the Hittites controlled massive armies of chariots. Further east, Babylon and Assyria managed complex bureaucratic systems. These kingdoms were not isolated. They were hyperconnected. Dr. Cline, an archaeologist at George Washington University, describes this era as a highly globalized network. They traded gold, silver, ivory, and olive oil. But most importantly, they traded the components of bronze. Bronze was the high-tech material of the ancient world. It made the sharpest swords and the strongest plows. But making bronze required a specific recipe. You needed 9 parts copper and 1 part tin. Copper was abundant in Cyprus, but tin was incredibly rare. The closest major source of tin was thousands of miles away, in the mountains of modern Afghanistan. To create weapons and tools, these empires had to cooperate. They built massive trade routes across dangerous deserts and treacherous seas. If the tin stopped flowing, the entire world economy stopped working. Does that sound familiar? Then, around 1200 BC, the first domino fell. Archaeologists digging across Greece, Turkey, and Syria found something horrifying. Layer upon layer of black ash. Hundreds of cities were violently destroyed within a few decades. Mycenae, Tiryns, Troy, Ugarit, and Hattusa were all burned to the ground. Who did this? Ancient Egyptian inscriptions on the walls of Medinet Habu point to a mysterious enemy. They called them the Sea Peoples. The inscriptions described them as a massive migrating confederation of raiders from the sea. They brought their families with them in ox carts. They crushed every army that stood in their way. But modern historians realize the Sea Peoples were only part of the nightmare. A massive climate shift was happening simultaneously. Climate scientist Dr. Brandon Drake analyzed ancient pollen samples and cave formations from this exact period. The data reveals a massive, multi-century mega-drought that struck the entire Mediterranean basin. The crops failed. The soil turned to dust. Letters baked into clay tablets found in the ruins of Ugarit reveal a desperate cry for help. One tablet reads, "There is famine in our house. We are dying of starvation." Another letter from the Hittite king pleads, "It is a matter of life or death." As starvation spread, internal rebellions erupted. The starving peasants turned on their elite rulers. At the exact same time, major earthquakes rocked Greece and the Levant, shattering city walls. The system was simply too interconnected to survive. When the Hittite Empire collapsed from famine, they stopped exporting goods. When the Mycenaean palaces burned, the trade ships stopped sailing. The global supply chain snapped completely. This was a systemic failure. The collapse of one kingdom triggered the inevitable collapse of the next. It was an ancient domino effect. The aftermath was a dark age that lasted over 300 years. Population levels plummeted, cities were abandoned and swallowed by nature. Monumental stone architecture ceased completely. Most terrifyingly, the art of writing was entirely lost in Greece and the Levant for generations. Humanity literally forgot its own history. What if our own hyper-connected modern world is just as fragile as theirs? Progress is never permanent, and the complex systems keeping us alive can vanish the moment the web breaks.